Long ago, a small group of pure-hearted Saiyans questioned the evil committed by their race. The good Saiyans decided to lead a revolt against the bad, and to ensure victory, pooled their powers to create a savior, a Super Saiyan God.
In the 7th universe. Currently in the 7th universe, more precisely on the planet of the God of Destruction, it was possible to see Goku, Vegeta, and Broly training together at the same time. The Saiyan trio was attacking Whis at a high speed, but the Angel dodged it very easily. It didn't take long for Goku, Vegeta, and Broly to move a little away from Whis, and transform into their Super Saiyan forms, and again advance towards Whis, attacking him at an even greater speed. But just like before, Whis easily dodged and defended himself from the blows of those three Saiyans, as the difference in power between them was still very large. Beerus was sitting on a tree branch looking at Goku, Vegeta, and Broly training while eating some seafood that Bulma had sent for him and Whis to eat. Whis thought, what a strange thing. Mr. Beerus is eating and yet he seems worried, or he doesn't like the food, but I doubt it's because of the taste of the food, because if that were the case he wouldn't be eating but rather complaining about the taste of the food. What happened to Mr. Beerus being with that face? He thought the Angel while discreetly looking at Beerus and defending himself from the blows of the three Saiyans. Whis saw that his God of Destruction was worried about something he didn't know what it was, so the Angel decided to finish that training. Whis simply disappeared before appearing behind the Saiyans and throwing the three of them into the lake on the planet. Guys, before continuing this epic story, leave your like, and of course, if you want to help the channel even more, leave your super thanks and help the channel financially, and of course subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new. Whis said, let's end combat training for today. I'm going to give you some time to rest. Enjoy this rest and go eat something to have more energy for the next training, because you're going to need energy, said the Angel to the three Saiyans, who nodded in agreement, except Broly, who started fighting with the giant fish in the lake, and seeing this Whis gave a short laugh and went to Beerus. Beerus said, what happened, Whis? I thought the training would be something more rigid. I thought you were going to put them to fight against each other, but you just made them attack you and you were defending yourself and dodging their blows, Beerus said while looking at his Angel, who soon sat down next to him. Whis said, this was just warm-up training. Today will not be combat training. But I didn't stop training for them to rest, but because of you, Mr. Beerus, he said the Angel while looking at Beerus, who, upon hearing that, became confused. Beerus said, what do you mean I'm the reason you took this break from training? Could you explain this better to me, Whis? Beerus asked as he was still very confused by his Angel's words. Whis said, Mr. Beerus, I would like to know why you are like this. I noticed that you are a little unmotivated and you are not eating like you normally do. You are normally happy eating, but this time you were eating and you still had this closed and pensive look on your face. I would like to know what is wrong with you. Because I am your Angel and also a friend, I will do my best to help you with your queries. Beerus said, apparently I can't hide anything from you, but that's not something I should be surprised about. After all, you've been by my side for so many years, so it wouldn't be a surprise if you can analyze me and know when there's something wrong with me. Whis said, we have been together for many years and I can understand you just by looking at your face or your aura. So tell me, Mr. Beerus, what is worrying you? I noticed that you've been like this for a few days now, said the Angel, because he knew his friend and knew that it might not be something simple for Beerus to be behaving that way. Beerus said, well, I was recently thinking about that prophetic dream of mine where I faced the Super Saiyan God, and thanks to that dream I ended up meeting Goku and Vegeta and making them both gain the power of the gods. At that time I thought that my destiny was to fight the Super Saiyan God, and with that I would end up facing someone extremely powerful, but I ended up meeting Goku and making him become a god through that Saiyan ritual. I admit that that battle against Goku was incredible, because I hadn't fought like that in many centuries. But recently, while you were training those three Saiyans, I ended up hearing that green-skinned girl who is Broly's friend talking about the first Saiyan who got the power divine, known as Yamoshi, who was the first Super Saiyan God. said the god of destruction with a slightly serious and fearful look because of his own thoughts. Whis said, I had thought that you had already left this story of your dream aside after defeating Son Goku in a fight where he was using the power of the Super Saiyan God, so your prophetic dream has already come true, right? So why come back to this subject after so long? Asked the angel while looking with some curiosity at his god of destruction. Beerus said, after I heard again about the Super Saiyan God, I didn't care much at first, but the name Yamoshi sent shivers all over my body as if it were a natural instinct of an animal facing a predator that was going to devour it. I don't remember I felt a fear as great as this for thousands of years, and that's why I'm acting strangely. Basically, I'm scared of Yamoshi, and I don't even know why I was so scared, and it makes me angry, very angry. Beerus said while grinding his teeth, he was very angry with himself for feeling so afraid of the simple name of the first Super Saiyan God. Beerus didn't know why, much less how strong Yamoshi was in the past. Whis said, I see. I already understand why you are feeling this way, Mr. Beerus. In my opinion, your mind made you believe that Yamoshi is the Super Saiyan God who appeared in your premonition and that he was a monster without a name or face, and that was why you ended up associating him with Goku, who was the Super Saiyan God that you faced. But now that you have more information about Yamoshi, your mind has developed a monster called Yamoshi that for you, he is more powerful and will be the one who will kill you. And let me ask you, did you go looking for more information about Yamoshi, wasn't it? The angel asked, already knowing that Beerus had more information about Yamoshi and that Beerus' mind ended up creating a defense mechanism that made Beerus want to avoid Yamoshi. Beerus said, yes, I was curious about who the Super Saiyan God would be, so I did my research, but I only managed to discover some of his feats, and from what I discovered that he was as strong as a god of destruction, and there was a god of destruction of another universe that ended up fighting this Super Saiyan God, and this god of destruction was defeated, which made me afraid, but after finding out this Saiyan's name was Yamoshi, I ended up being afraid, and that's not something natural for me. Beerus said while laughing lightly, as he really wasn't used to that feeling of being scared. Whis said, I see, so knowing that Yamoshi already faced a god of destruction and eliminated him made you afraid that at some point or in some way Yamoshi would return and end up eliminating you, just like what happened with the other god of destruction. Now I know what happened to Kayak. Until today I didn't know exactly how he ended up being killed, but now I know that it was Yamoshi who eliminated Kayak, but you are much stronger than Kayak. The angel said, I finally understood how an ancient god of destruction lost his life. Beerus said, still I have this fear inside me. I wish I had a way to get rid of this fear, but I find that difficult to happen. Beerus said as he looked at his angel, who thought a little before speaking. Whis said, the only way for you to get rid of this fear would be to fight Yamoshi and defeat him. Let's go after the Super Dragon Balls to bring Yamoshi back to life so you can face him and defeat him. Only then will you return to be the Mr. Beerus I know, said the angel, giving a suggestion to Beerus, who was surprised and a little scared by the idea of facing Yamoshi. Beerus said, do you really think I'm strong enough to defeat Yamoshi? Because I don't think I'm that strong. But you've never lied to me before and you wouldn't do that now, so be honest and tell me whether or not I'm capable of facing Yamoshi and defeating him in combat. Beerus asked seriously to Whis, who smiled. Whis said, yes, I'm sure you're capable of facing and defeating Yamoshi, said the angel while a big smile appeared on his face, which made Beerus sigh and give a light laugh. Beerus said, if you're saying it, I'll believe it, so let's go after the Super Dragon Balls to bring Yamoshi back to life and put an end to my stupid fear. Beerus said while a big smile appeared on his face, which made Whis happy. In the 7th universe, currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in the Capsule Corporation, it was possible to see Goku and Vegeta facing each other in a training duel. Both Saiyans were using their base forms, and neither were using their powers or abilities. In that training duel, Goku and Vegeta were just using their martial arts skills and physical attributes and nothing more. Bulma was sitting in a corner reading the newspaper while taking care of her youngest daughter at the corporation, but it didn't take long for a pillar of light to appear at the corporation. Bulma thought, why did Beerus come this time? The last few days that Whis came to the Capsule Corporation, Beerus didn't come and I don't know why. I only know what Vegeta told me, that Beerus was very strange these last few days, and that he was distant or worried about something. The woman thought while discreetly looking at Beerus, and Whis, the god of destruction, had a slightly irritated face, but he was serious and calm at the same time. Goku said, Mr. Beerus, what did you come to do on planet Earth this time? Did you come to eat something? Because if you go, you'll have to wait a few minutes because Bulma's cooks are making some dishes for us to eat after our training, said the Saiyan while looking at the god of destruction, who was staring at the Saiyan. But before Beerus spoke, Goku ended up receiving a punch in the jaw as they were still training and hadn't stopped, so Vegeta took advantage of the moment to hit Goku. Vegeta said, next time Goku, don't let his guard down or else I'll hit him even harder. But tell me, Beerus and Whis, why are you here this time? I'm not complaining or anything like that. I'm just curious that you're here, and by the look on Mr. Beerus' face you didn't come to eat like you normally do, Vegeta said while looking at both divine beings, especially Beerus, as he had a serious face and this was something that Beerus normally didn't have, so he was curious about why the two divine beings were there. Beerus said, to answer your question, Whis and I didn't come to eat as usual, but for something more serious. I came to planet Earth this time because of Bulma. I need that dragon radar that she used to find the Super Dragon Balls when the tournament took place where you and Goku faced the warriors from my twin brother's universe, Beerus said, keeping his gaze serious and calm. Goku said, do you want the dragon radar? Why do you want to use the power of the Super Dragon Balls this time? From what I know, so far there is no powerful enemy and there is no need to use it now. So why do you want to use the power of Super Shenron this time, Mr. Beerus? The Saiyan asked, curious because, in Goku's eyes, it was not necessary to use the power of the spheres at that moment. Whis spoke, Mr. Beerus wants to use the power of the Super Dragon Balls to bring an ancient warrior back to life so he can face and defeat him for some special reason, Whis said while looking calmly at the two Saiyans in front of him who were surprised by that. After all, they didn't expect Beerus to want to face an already dead warrior. Goku said, a warrior already dead? Who is this powerful warrior that made Mr. Beerus want to use the Super Dragon Balls to bring him back to life, and why instead of using the Super Dragon Balls, don't you use the Dragon Balls here on planet Earth and invoke the Shenron? After all, it's much less work than going after the Super Dragon Balls, Goku said while looking at Beerus, who, upon hearing that, was surprised by Goku's speech, as were the others present. Goku said, what happened? Why are you looking at me like that? Vegeta said, you said something intelligent and not something stupid. That was more surprising than the news that Beerus wants to use the Super Dragon Balls to bring back an already dead enemy. I'm curious about who this opponent is that Beerus wants to face. After all, he must be very strong for you to want to revive him just to stop carrying out this fight. Beerus said, I was also surprised by your comment, Goku. But your thought of using the Dragon Balls from planet Earth would be quite useless when it comes to the person I want to bring back to life, said the god of destruction while looking at Goku, who ended up being surprised by Beerus' speech, and as Whis was only listening to the conversation until that moment, he decided to speed things up by going to Bulma to get the dragon's radar. Goku said, I don't understand. I know that Shenron is not that powerful, but he can bring people back to life as he has done with me and several of my friends and family in the past. So I don't understand why you want to use the power of Super Dragon Balls to simply bring someone back to life. Maybe it's necessary to bring his pieces back to life and then rebuild him like it was with Frieza, but that's just a matter of time before Bulma, who has a recovery machine, to be able to do that, so why wouldn't Shenron be useful this time? Goku asked because he really didn't understand why he would use the Super Dragon Balls from planet Earth. Beerus said, I'll explain it in a way that you understand, Goku. The Shenron from planet Earth would not be able to revive this specific person because he has been dead for many years, and when he was alive his power was similar to that of the gods, and as a result Shenron is unable to bring him back to life. So the only way to bring this individual back to life with his full power would be using the power of Super Shenron, and that is why I need the Dragon Radar to get the Super Dragon Balls and summon Super Shenron for him to bring this warrior back to life. And before you ask me again who this specific warrior is, he is the first Saiyan to become a god. His name is Yamoshi, the first Super Saiyan god that you two have ever heard of when I came to planet Earth looking for the god Super Saiyan. And Shenron told that whole story about the ritual of how to become a Super Saiyan god. The god of destruction spoke, and at that moment Goku and Vegeta were very surprised to know who the warrior Beerus wanted to revive was. Goku said, "Do you want to revive and face Yamoshi, the first Saiyan who managed to transform into a Super Saiyan god?" said the Saiyan, surprised and excited about the fact that he could possibly end up fighting Yamoshi as well. Beerus said, "Exactly, and that's why I need the Super Dragon Balls and not Shenron, because he doesn't have enough power to bring a being as powerful as Yamoshi back to life. So now it's time for us to go because Whis already has the Dragon's Radar. But don't worry, because when he and I fight you'll be able to see it," said the god of destruction, looking at Whis, who was approaching him with the Dragon Radar in his hands. When approaching Beerus, Whis hit his staff on the ground and with that created a pillar of light, and then they left there going after the Super Dragon Balls. So in a few hours they already had all the Super Dragon Balls, including those that they were in the 6th universe that Kampa gave to Beerus after being defeated in an arm wrestle between them. Now with the Super Dragon Balls, Beerus summoned Super Shenron and began to speak in the language of the gods. Then Beerus made his wish, and with that a great glow appeared in the place and the Super Shenron disappeared, leaving only a sphere that appeared to be composed of several very old cloths. Little by little, that sphere of bands began to unravel, and after a few minutes it was possible to see a kind of mummy still wrapped in those bands. But the being was already emanating a very powerful energy that made Beerus feel a mixture of fear and excitement. Beerus thought, "So this is Yamoshi?" His power is actually equivalent to that of Goku using Ultra Instinct, and apparently he isn't even using his divine form yet. He is strong, very strong indeed, thought the god of destruction as he stared at the being in front of him who still had a very old appearance. In the 7th universe, currently in the 7th universe, more precisely in outer space, it was possible to see Beerus and Whis looking at Yamoshi, who had several old cloths on his body looking like a mummy. Beerus was the one who was most surprised by the power Yamoshi was releasing, as Yamoshi wasn't even in his Super Saiyan God form and was already releasing so much power. Whis, like Beerus, was surprised by Yamoshi's power, as the angel had not met Yamoshi in the past. Beerus thought, apparently Yamoshi is still half dead and his body is slowly restoring itself, but it's strange that he doesn't have a younger body but an older one. Why is this happening? I specifically asked Super Shenron to bring Yamoshi back to life in his prime, so is the elderly version of him more powerful than when he was a young man? Beerus asked himself while looking at Yamoshi, who was looking at his bandaged hands. Whis thought, Yamoshi is really powerful. I thought he would be weak compared to Mr. Beerus's full power, but I think that if Mr. Beerus uses his full power he will be able to overcome Yamoshi. But will this be all of Yamoshi's powers since he is still in his base form? He thought the angel while looking at Yamoshi, who appeared to be a little lost because Yamoshi didn't know how much time had passed since his death. Yamoshi said, "I was revived, right? Apparently we are in outer space and I am not seeing Sadala's planet or another planet that the Saiyans have conquered. After all, in my time the planet Sadala was dying because we Saiyans ended up extracting a lot of resources from the planet, and this ended up killing the planet little by little. Could you two answer me and tell me who you are? From the aura of both of you, I know that you have a similar energy to mine when I transform. If I remember correctly, some of my former allies called that transformation Super Saiyan God, so you two would also be gods, correct?" Yamoshi asked while focusing his gaze on Beerus and Whis at that moment, not understanding what was happening there. Whis said, "Yes, we are both divine beings. My name is Whis and I am an angel who serves as the guide and assistant of Mr. Beerus, who is by my side. He is the god of destruction of this universe, and we are responsible for taking care of this universe, which is the 7th universe and exists in total 12 universes." Whis said, introducing himself to Yamoshi, that he wasn't so surprised because they were both divine, but he was surprised because there were more universes. Yamoshi said, I never thought I would meet divine beings face to face. The only times I thought that would happen would be when I died and was going to the underworld, but it's a pleasure to meet you too. And even though you know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Yamoshi, and I am a Saiyan from an ancient era who gained the power of a deity. Yamoshi spoke politely while looking at Beerus and Whis. Beerus said, yes, you were revived thanks to the power of Super Shenron, a dragon that can grant any wish, including reviving other beings. About the planet Sadala, it was abandoned a long time ago and the Saiyans went to another planet and named it Planet Vegeta, but a being called Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta and eliminated all the Saiyans, said the god of destruction while looking at Yamoshi, who upon hearing that news made him extremely sad to know that his race was extinct. Yamoshi said, so all the Saiyans are dead? All my former friends and their descendants are no longer alive, and my descendants and heirs are no more. Yamoshi spoke extremely sad while some tears began to flow from the corner of his eyes. This surprised Beerus and Whis, as they both knew that the time in which Yamoshi lived, the Saiyans were very brutal and merciless beings. So seeing a Saiyan from that time act in this way, it was something quite surprising. Whis spoke, in reality, there are still some pure-blood Saiyans alive. If I know correctly, there are 4 Saiyans descended from planet Vegeta. 2 of them are members of royalty and the other 2 are normal Saiyans, but both of them, even though they are considered low class, are extremely powerful and are even more powerful than Saiyan royalty. As incredible as it may seem, of the 4 Saiyans, 3 of them have the same power as divine beings and 2 of them have the same Super Saiyan God transformation just like you. The angel spoke to the Saiyan, who was surprised by the fact that there still exist Saiyans and they are so strong. After all, in his time there were no such powerful Saiyans. Yamoshi said, I'm happy to know that there are still Saiyans alive and that over time they will continue to increase the number of members of our race, and especially I'm happy to know that they managed to become so powerful. I don't know if any of them are my descendants, but I would like to meet them at some point. Now I would like to know why they brought me back to life. I'm sure you didn't do this just to get to know me, because you're not Saiyans, so it wouldn't make sense for you to bring me back to life to ask me to train you or to find out more about the origins of Saiyans. So could you tell me why you brought me back to life? Yamoshi said while looking at the 2 divine beings in front of him with great curiosity. Whis said, we really had a reason to bring you back to life, but at the moment I can see that you are a little fragile and won't be able to help us, and as you said you would like to meet the surviving Saiyans, we can take you to meet 2 of them. And while you get to know them, you can teach them some technique or tell them about the time when you were alive, and while that happens you recover, and after you recover we will tell you why we brought you back to life. Whis said while looking at Yamoshi and then at Beerus, but Yamoshi was curious about why he was brought back to life. Yamoshi thought, by the look on their faces and the fact that they didn't tell me why they brought me back to life, I would say they did it so I could face one of them, and I would say that this cat-looking Beerus. I already know. I think he wants to avenge that guy I faced in my time who wore a similar outfit to him, so that guy was also a god of destruction, but from another universe since his clothes were different from the guy in front of me. So Beerus probably wants revenge or wants to show that he has surpassed the other god of destruction. Yamoshi thought while analyzing the 2 beings, especially Beerus, who was serious while staring at Yamoshi. Beerus thought, maybe Yamoshi already suspected why I revived him. He's right in thinking that I wouldn't do something like that just for the sake of it, because I really wouldn't. After all, I'm a god of destruction and not a Saiyan. So no, I'm interested in reviving someone who doesn't even belong to my species, thought the god of destruction while looking at Yamoshi, who was staring at Beerus at that moment. Yamoshi had many doubts and didn't trust Beerus or Whis at all and knew that they wanted him to fight Beerus, but Yamoshi didn't want that. He wanted to meet the surviving Saiyans, so he decided to follow those 2 beings, and soon the 3 disappeared from the place and went to planet Earth. Upon arriving on planet Earth, everyone present was surprised by the power that was emanated by Yamoshi. Goku and Vegeta together with their children went to meet Yamoshi, who was really happy to see beings of his species. At all times Goku tried to challenge Yamoshi to a combat, but Yamoshi always refused because he didn't like fighting like Goku or Vegeta. As Yamoshi was there on planet Earth, he asked Goku and Vegeta to fight each other to see their power level, and Also their techniques, and the two Saiyans accepted and faced each other, and after this fight Yamoshi showed some weaknesses that both Saiyans were having, something that not even Whis noticed, and along with that Yamoshi taught some techniques to Goku and Vegeta, including a technique that allowed them to transfer divine energy to other Saiyans. Yamoshi demonstrated by transferring some divine energy to Goten and Trunks, and the two ended up transforming into Super Saiyan God. Temporarily, something that would be useful if they needed more powerful allies. Yamoshi enjoyed a few days on planet Earth, and when he got better he trained with Goku and Vegeta, showing that he was indeed very powerful, since alone in his base form he defeated Goku and Vegeta, who were transformed into Super Saiyan Blue. Goku and Vegeta were taking a huge beating. At no point did the two Saiyans manage to hurt or directly touch Yamoshi. Now, after another training session by Yamoshi with the Saiyans from planet Earth, it was possible to see Whis and Beerus in a corner further away from everyone present. They were in the Capsule Corporation at that time. Whis said, "It seems that Yamoshi has already recovered enough for the duel between you two, right, Mr. Beerus?" He asked the angel to Beerus, who was finishing drinking a glass of juice. Beerus said, "That's right, Whis. It's time to find out who is stronger, me or him." Beerus spoke in an extremely serious manner while looking at Yamoshi. In the 7th universe, Beerus was more in the corner enjoying what could be his last meal. After all, Beerus, even though he was strong and powerful, he was still afraid of losing his life in today's fight against Yamoshi, because Beerus, whether he wanted to or not, the two would fight and one of them would lose your life. Whis said, "Are you ready, Mr. Beerus? Because I think this is the best time for his battle against Yamoshi, although I believe he doesn't want to fight anyone because according to Yamoshi's words, he became a pacifist several years before he lost his life, so he won't want to fight you. But I know that if you really want to fight, you will force Yamoshi to fight you," Whis said while looking at his god of destruction who finished eating his pudding. Beerus said, "I know that, Whis, but just like you said, I'm going to face Yamoshi anyway, and I know how to make him want to face me, just like Vegeta cared about the Saiyans." Yamoshi showed enormous affection for the Saiyans, and when we revealed that the Saiyans were practically extinct, Yamoshi was very sad and even cried. So just use his sadness as a target until he gets angry, Beerus said while looking at Whis, who already knew how Beerus was going to do that, as the god of destruction also used this same technique with Vegeta to make the Prince of Saiyans angry. Whis said, "We've seen several times that Saiyans become more powerful depending on the level of their anger, so leaving a Saiyan with a desire for revenge and blinded by rage is a guaranteed fight. And if you do that to Yamoshi, the chances of you fighting it with something close to 20% goes directly to 100%. Whis spoke before sighing, as the angel had already seen several demonstrations of the Saiyans' power when they were lost in anger and when they let themselves be guided by it. Guys, before continuing this epic story, leave your like, and of course, if you want to help the channel even more, leave your super thanks and help the channel financially, and of course subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new. Beerus said, "Regardless of what happens, know that it was great to have a friend as good as you, Whis. And even though you made me mad because of your silly ways, you were a good teacher, a great guy, and an excellent friend to me, and I know that if I lose the fight and die, the next god of destruction will do a good job since you are the one who will be by his side." Beerus said, practically saying goodbye to Whis, something that made the angel remain silent for a few minutes before starting to laugh at that, something that made Beerus angry. Whis said, "You're too proud to talk like that. So you've practically accepted that you will be defeated, and that's something I don't see billions of years from now. I must say that being very sentimental doesn't suit you at all, but I'm happy that you enjoyed the time we spent together, and especially that you see me as your friend," Whis said looking at the sky, and Beerus just gave a muffled laugh before getting up. Beerus said, "Don't get me wrong, I just said that to make you aware that I thank you for everything you've done for me over the last few millennia. But I still guarantee you that you'll have to work with me for several more years, because I'm not in the mood for hand over my title of God of Destruction of the 7th universe so soon," Beerus said as he got up and walked over to where Yamoshi was, who stared at Beerus. Yamoshi said, "From the look on your face you think I'm ready to fight, and from what Goku and Vegeta told me, that was the main and only reason to bring me back to life. But unfortunately for you I don't fight because I became a pacifist," Yamoshi said while finishing a piece of cake. Beerus said, "Funny, maybe the fact that you became a pacifist made your race weaker, and in the future they served Frieza and his father, and because they were so weak they were eliminated by Frieza. Of course, who gave the order to destroy the planet and the race of Saiyans was me in the end, but I have to admit that Frieza did a good job." Beerus said with a smile on his face, and everyone present who didn't know that looked at Beerus, who remained looking at Yamoshi, who kept his head down. Beerus was about to say something else, but suddenly Yamoshi disappeared and reappeared in front of Beerus, hitting him with a punch that the God of Destruction managed to defend himself by crossing his arms in the shape of an X. So everyone saw that Yamoshi was no longer wearing the bands of mummification that covered his body, revealing the appearance of an elderly man, but it was still possible to feel the power being emanated from his already old body. Whis, seeing that the fight was going to start in that place and fearing for the lives of those who were there, the angel hit his staff on the ground, causing Beerus and Yamoshi to be teleported to an unshakable planet on the outskirts of the 7th universe, and as he knew that many wanted to see that fight, he made his staff project the fight so everyone could see the confrontation between Beerus and Yamoshi. The moment Beerus and Yamoshi stepped onto the planet they were teleported to, the two charged towards each other, and when they were close enough, they tried to hit each other with a punch, but ended up clashing their fists, and in doing so, all the planet began to collapse. Inactive volcanoes activated instantly and began to shoot lava everywhere. Earthquakes began to divide the planet, and while this was happening, Beerus and Yamoshi continued to exchange blows, where it was only a matter of time before the planet exploded. Beerus and Yamoshi didn't care whether or not that planet would be destroyed, as both beings were focused solely on their battle. Beerus didn't want to be defeated, but he was afraid from the beginning, and Yamoshi was now thirsty for revenge for his race and for his descendants who were extinct, so that battle would only end when one of the two lost his life. Beerus saw how to open a gap in Yamoshi's defense and used his tail to throw dust into the air, making Yamoshi close his eyes, and with that Beerus aimed a punch at his stomach. But Yamoshi redirected his blow to the side and used the surprise, which Beerus ended up having to hit the God of Destruction with a right hook. Beerus, upon receiving the blow, did not despair and concentrated his energy in his hand and fired at Yamoshi, who, being very close to Beerus, ended up forcing them both to move away from each other. Beerus and Yamoshi realized that their current power levels were equal, where Beerus was a little stronger and more resilient than Yamoshi, but Yamoshi was faster and his battle instincts were superior to Beerus's. Upon realizing this, Beerus and Yamoshi began to increase their powers and again rushed towards each other at an extreme speed and again clashed their fists. But this time an impact wave was generated so large that the planet was cut in half, and seconds later both sides of the planet exploded. After the planet's explosion, silence remained for a few seconds before two stars came out of the smoke generated by the explosion. Those stars were where Beerus and Yamoshi would now fight in earnest. Beerus had an aura of destruction around his body and was using a transformation similar to the one Toppo demonstrated during the Tournament of Power, but in Beerus' case, he had some traces of Ultra Instinct in his incomplete form, while Yamoshi had his long hair completely red with a flaming aura around them showing their Super Saiyan God form. The two warriors faced each other for a few seconds before they both disappeared and reappeared face to face, starting an exchange of punches that caused everything around them to be destroyed, and even those who were on planet Earth or in other universes were feeling their power colliding, something that made Beerus excited to continue, and even though Yamoshi didn't want to admit it, he was also loving that adrenaline rush. Beerus and Yamoshi were no longer caring about defense and the battle that used to be between divine beings, but now ended up becoming just an unrestrained exchange of punches, where the two punched each other without caring about the blows received. That battle had stopped being a duel between warriors and had become a contest of strength and speed between two monsters. Beerus hit Yamoshi without the slightest remorse, making the Saiyan bleed and feel his muscles throb with pain, but the adrenaline didn't let Yamoshi feel that pain, and because he hadn't fought like that in millennia, he wanted nothing more than to continue until he couldn't take it anymore. But Yamoshi also hit him mercilessly, making Beerus' bones crack and break little by little, which caused extreme pain in Beerus. But Beerus was too excited to care about that pain in his body. The mind-boggling exchange of punches between those two monsters caused the entire 7th universe to collapse. Whis used his power to prevent the destruction of the universe, and after a few minutes it was possible to see Beerus full of bruises and blood all over his body, where most of his clothes no longer existed, and just like him, Yamoshi was also all injured and with a lot of blood on his body apart from his clothes, which also no longer existed. But the difference between both beings came when Yamoshi ended up regressing to his form base, showing that he could no longer stay in his Super Saiyan God state. Beerus, seeing that, knew what needed to be done and created a sphere made of Hakai and pointed it at Yamoshi's chest, who just smiled at that. Yamoshi said, "At least now I will die in a more honorable way, and I can boast of having almost defeated the god of destruction of the 7th universe." Yamoshi said with a satisfied smile on his face as he looked at Beerus with his only working eye, as he no longer had vision in the other. Beerus said, "You're the first one I've had to go above my limit, and you'll probably be the only one, so be proud, Yamoshi, because you're strong. And as a mighty warrior, I am just grateful for this fight that I will never forget." Beerus said while looking at Yamoshi, who was smiling. Then his body ended up being disintegrated by Beerus' energy attack, and when the fight ended, Beerus regressed to his base form and then fell to the ground unconscious. Guys, this is how we end this story. Did you like the outcome of this incredible battle between Yamoshi and Beerus? Comment, and of course don't forget to like to help the channel, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos like this. Until next time, guys.